I'm going to record this. Listen, everybody, we're going to start a new unit on solar power today. So I want to give you a little background. This is the fourth year in Project Make here at Annalee that we've been able to work with PG&E and this Berkeley nonprofit called We Share Solar to do solar in our classes here, maker classes. So we have these solar suitcase kits that make two people know because we've done this in the past. We've had these solar suitcase kits that are copies of what we've made that has actually been sent internationally. So in 2 of the 4 years, we've sent kits which were sent into Africa to provide power for an orphanage and 2 different schools. So last year's placement occurred after school was out. So this will be new to our Make 2 students, but I'm gonna show you a little document here. We've got our kit last year got sent to a to Thavu Secondary School in Kenya. 150 students served, 68 teachers, 2 classrooms. So it shows you here. You can see this PDF later, but we made 2 solar suitcases. Well, we made one that got sent there. Another one from another school got sent. So this school previously had no access to electricity, and what's awesome is teachers can do more work at night to get ready to teach for the next day. People can charge their phones and e-readers and laptops during the day. So I'll show you, this is a picture of the school and they're going up on the roof. This is, you can't see it very well, I'm sure, on a tiny little share screen, but this is the solar suitcase. We have one more shot where it's closer, but here's a light. There's 2 lights. Actually, it looks like there's 4 lights in the ceiling here in this classroom. Which may not look like a lot, but if you're going from no light to 4 light bulbs, it's amazing. So here's a closer look of the suitcase, and there's a picture of somebody on the roof putting connecting up the panels. One great thing about the We Share Solar group is they hire local installers. So it's not like a bunch of Americans showing up to fix everything. Sure, they're providing the kit, from America, funded by PG&E, but local installers are trained over time and are able to do the installations. They buy the batteries and the panels locally in the country. So it's awesome. So this year, we are receiving 1 solar kit to build and send abroad. And my plan is to talk with Make 2 students and find 1 or more of you who are willing to build it. And I would deliver it to your house and you could build it and then test it. And then we'll send it abroad. We're not meeting in person right now. So I think that's going to be how we have to do it. In addition, PG&E's paid for 4 kits that we're going to build and keep on site permanently to help Annalee and the Sebastopol community with emergency preparedness. So that's kind of cool. And again, we'll figure out a way to get those things built. So today, to get started in this unit, we're going to talk about emergency preparedness and what it might mean for us as individuals and for our school and community. I think, if you had talked to me about emergency preparedness 10 years ago, I would have been like, yeah, well, whatever. But I think you've all been around. If you've lived in Sebastopol for the last 3 years, we've had just crazy fires. We've been evacuated. We've had school closures, flooding. It's just nuts. So I think it does mean something to us now in a way that it didn't before. So anyway, in the coming weeks over this unit, we're going to learn about how solar energy works, how to design a working electrical circuit. And to wrap up the whole unit, each of us is going to design our own emergency solar kit. We're just going to design them. We're not all going to build them because I don't have money to give each of you, $300 to buy all the parts, but it'll be cool. And along the way, you'll learn how solar power works, how simple electrical circuits work, and you'll gain an appreciation of where your power comes from. So you'll have access to this slide deck. We Share Solar is the group in Berkeley that makes and distributes these solar suitcases. PG&E funds everything, just because they like to support solar power. And today, oh, funny, I said it's PG&E's introductory presentation. It's actually We Share Solar's introductory. We Share Solar's introductory presentation. And we're going to answer some questions. Oh, I have another place. It's not PG&E's presentation that I have here. All right, I'm gonna click here. We'll see how the transition goes. All right, great. So here's the We Share Solar. We're gonna do, I don't know, just like 10 slides. It's not a big deal. And then I've got some questions for you. And then we'll be done. There's a little Google form I'm gonna ask you to fill out when we're done with this presentation. So, all right. So check this out. Here's some facts. High impact disasters occurring 5 times as often as they did in the 80s. Want you all to think about maybe why you think this might be. So let's look. This is a chart going from 1980 to 2019. Disasters per year in America causing over $1 billion in damages. So look at these things. You can see by the coloring, I think severe storm is perhaps the biggest category here, all these orange things. So I'd like you to think, you don't have to say out loud, but try to think of what you think might be causing this. And the next slide here gives We Share Solar's opinion on this. Climate change certainly makes weather disasters more frequent and more severe. So yeah, global warming. So our wildfire in California, the wildfire season is longer than ever. I mean, it goes, was it a year and a half ago? We were evacuated like a week before Halloween, you know, like literally that's October. That's a long fire season, you know, the summer into October. Fires are more intense and they destroy larger areas. Hurricanes, thankfully, don't affect us here, but they're more intense and causing more damage on the East Coast. And flooding in lots of places. Again, we had flooding here 2 years ago. So tornadoes. And somebody wrote in a comment, I'd have to agree. Humans are building in more wilderness areas, and that can lead to having more homes vulnerable to wildfires that wouldn't have gotten homes in the past. So because of increased risks due to climate change, as well as other risks like earthquakes, it's essential that we as people be prepared for disaster and be resilient. So let's look at what these things mean. Emergency preparedness means being ready to handle emergencies, you know, on a school, neighborhood, community, city scale. So a prepared community is equipped to take care of everyone when a crisis strikes. And disaster resilience means being organized to be able to recover from disasters. And a resilient community is able to keep making progress on long-term goals, even when crises happen. So I'd like you to think about this for a second, and then I'd love to have you unmute and just speak up. And what would it mean to be prepared for an emergency here in Sebastopol or in Sonoma County? Because I know you don't all live in Sebastopol. And let's talk about being prepared for an emergency first, and then we'll talk about what resilience might look like. So anybody up for speaking up? How could we be prepared?
Access to to emergency sources of power, like especially for critical areas like hospitals and the like.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, emergency preparedness would involve having access to power. Absolutely. Great point. Someone else?
Generators.
Yeah, so generators and the fuel to run them. Absolutely. So that's power. Any other things we would need to be properly prepared for an emergency?
I might also add that like being ready to like evacuate
like in fire season, like being like, okay, if something happens, we know what to bring.
Yeah, being prepared to evacuate. That's a great, I like that. So we've talked about power, generators, preparedness,
Transportation.
transportation. Yeah, during one of the evacuations, or almost evacuations, I went and got gas and filled up both I have a truck and a car, and I filled them both up. So I was going to be ready to go if we had to take either one. Uh, good points.
Maybe like an emergency route or something.
An emergency what?
Yeah.
Did you say an emergency kit? Like
An emergency route.
oh, route. Yeah, I just missed the word route. Yeah,
So
yeah, to know how you're going to get away from where you live. That totally. It's crazy. This last summer, I was riding my bike up. Actually, in the spring, I rode my bike up near Healdsburg in the mountains with a friend, and we were in this canyon. I forget the name of the road, but there was a sign in there that said that alternate evacuation route, turn left. So, but you're in this canyon and you'd think, oh, I have to leave the canyon the way I came in, but there was one other way to get out. But then after that, you were in this canyon, for good. But yeah, so if you live in a place where it's kind of cornered, you'd want to know exactly how to get out. Somebody in the chat wrote a mental note of what you need to take if you have to evacuate. Yeah, it's good to have thought that through. I know I always grabbed my favorite guitar. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't want to lose it when I evacuated. But any other thoughts about emergency preparedness? These are good things you guys have said. Thank you. Okay, let's talk about resilience. That's maybe a different angle on the whole thing. I'd love to have your thoughts on resilience. What would make our community resilient? So you can think about disasters you've lived through, evacuating and the fires and the floods we had 2 years ago.
Fast and efficient construction teams.
Yeah, that's good. Construction resources, construction teams to help rebuild.
Yep.
Yeah, good idea. Other thoughts about resilience? You guys are my first class doing this lesson, so
Maybe having priorities, like for what to do after something happens.
yeah, priorities, I guess plans. So having had some plans and having thought about it. Yeah.
Yeah, like what I mean is like maybe if there's like a school, like if something happened to Annalie or something happened to a flower shop, I mean, you probably want to help Annalie recover first.
Yeah, you'd have a plan with some priorities. Yeah, good point. Yeah, I like that. And I think you'd have part of it, I guess, to be resilient would be to have thought through what might happen, ahead of time, so that you can say, okay, well, we have a plan for if this happens, and we have a plan for if this other thing happens, rather than just have the disaster happen and then just be like, what? Yeah, good. Any other thoughts about resiliency? I think something that occurs to me is having good communication systems already set up. So if we were talking about Annalie, Annalie has this robo-caller where they can call every number of the parent. Plus they can send an email to all the students and parents. So there's a system where Annalie can communicate to the Annalie community, and that would be helpful, for us to recover. so you'd know when you were supposed to go back to school or what the options were if you couldn't make it to school safely. It's an interesting thing that we've spent almost a year now doing school online, because I never would have imagined that we could do online school as well as we're doing it. I'm not saying it's awesome, but it's better than nothing. And if we had some disaster, we could, temporarily say, okay, well, we're going to do Zoom classes for a week while they rebuild the hallway in the main building or something, All right, any other thoughts on resilience? Resilience is like the ability to recover and to get back on your feet and make it through. It's interesting because being prepared for a disaster can help you recover more quickly. Obviously, if you've thought about these things ahead of time, it can help. Great. So listen, right now, everybody, I'd like you to take a few minutes, write down your answers to these 2 questions. You can write them in a Google Doc. You can write them on a piece of paper. Just make some scribbles. But I'm gonna have you submit these answers in a Google form, as for your assignment today. So it makes sense for you to write down some notes right now. We were just talking about it. What are 2 things that would help you be prepared for an emergency? So I'm not talking about Annalie or Santa Rosa. I'm talking about you and your family. And what are 2 things that would help you be resilient in the face of an emergency? So you're not going to tell me this stuff right now. You're going to tell me later on a Google form. So jot this down. I'm going to give you a couple of minutes so you can write it down on paper or in a Google Doc or in an email to yourself, whatever you want. Open up a text file. Just answer these 2 questions. So in case you missed it, I'm just asking you to answer these 2 questions somewhere just with some scribbles, because later you're going to answer me in a Google form. All right, just a couple more things. We're going to talk about some things. This might change your answers or influence the answers you put down later. But we got a few more slides. So access to electricity is important for both preparedness and resilience. But obviously, in a disaster, often we will lose power. And in our case, around here, PG&E shut off the power to prevent fires. Essential electrical loads, things that we need essentially are light. It makes being safe a lot easier if you're not in the dark at night. Communications are cell phones, being able to have phones that work, and then life-saving equipment. There's people that depend on electricity for their life, literally. Emergency workers, but also, machines. People have things they need. So these are some things that are pretty essential in case of an emergency. And because electricity is essential in most emergencies and disasters. PG&E's, providing us this opportunity to have these solar suitcases. So we're going to have these solar suitcases. There's 4 of them. I actually have I have one of them in my house. It's not assembled yet, but the other 3 are at school. And I was just looking at all the parts. So we're going to build these kits, and then, to the best of our ability here this year, since we're not in person, we're going to at least come up with a draft plans for how we would have these kits available, and how we would take care of them, to have them on hand for Annalie to use when we need to, in the case of an emergency. So this will be 4 kits that we'll keep in the Maker Lab. We'll keep them charged up and ready to go, so that when there's a disaster, if anything happens at Annalie, we'll be able to get these kits out and use them for phone charging and essential communication, that sort of stuff. And then along the way, we'll all learn how to build.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
I just lagged out of the meeting. What
Yeah.
was the second question again?
The second question, it'll be on the form. You'll be able to answer it because it'll be on the form. So
Okay.
it was about resilience, but yeah.
All right.
Yeah, thanks for coming back. So the solar suitcase was designed to provide essential electricity. So it's not going to run, they give examples. It won't run, air conditioning or a refrigerator, but it can definitely, this is a close-up picture of it. There's the solar panel on the left, and then this shows the suitcase powering a light bulb and then charging a phone. If you charge this thing on a daily basis, it'll run for forever, until, effectively, until the battery dies someday. When we got evacuated a year and a half ago, or right before we got evacuated, PG&E cut our power in Sebastopol here for like a week. And I actually went to school and got one of the solar suitcases and brought it home, and I used it I used it because made sense for somebody to use it. So I had light to read by at night, and my phone I was keeping my phone charged. It was, I had the thing, I have the panel out front, and it was crazy. It actually worked really well. So, solar suitcases have provided emergency power in Haiti after the 2010 earthquake, in Philippines, in Nepal, in Puerto Rico. So this group, We Share Solar, has, placed these kits all over the world. Pretty awesome. Here's a Nepalese man going up a steep hill with one of these kits after the 2015 earthquake in Nepal. So, and here's one of the kits helping people provide medical aid at night. So this whole We Share Solar group, we're almost done, by the way. The We Share Solar group came out of a husband and wife team where the wife is a doctor, and she was doing a study on infant mortality. That's, when babies and young children die when, more than they should. And they figured out that just by providing light, they could dramatically reduce death during childbirth of the mother and the children substantially. So they started this organization initially to just make solar kits that would go into hospitals, so that even though the hospital or doctor's office is in the middle of a place where there's no power, they could have light at night, and they save untold numbers of lives over the years by providing electricity for medical care. So they launched the We Share Solar part to help place kits in schools. So the kits we make they're not targeted for hospitals. They don't have students making those. But all right, well, that's it. That's all for today's presentation. So I have recorded this. I'm going to stop the recording.